The PPL podcast. This is episode, Mike. What episode are we in here?
14.
Lucky number 14. Now, this is the 14th episode. We have an end of season number 1. And who better to have on this podcast than the winner in season number 1 of the PPL Cup champion, the Las Vegas Smash. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got Henry Strasser. This is big. I got a brother on a show, a champion, a brother, a good friend. He's the man, Mike. This is Henry Strasser. I've told you a lot about him, haven't I?
Henry Strasser, who I heard not only is an exceptional tennis player, but you're one of the owners of the Vegas Smash. And let's not bury the lead here. We have our very first ever PPL Cup champions, the Vegas Smash. Congratulations, Henry.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me on your show. We're all very excited about our win last Sunday and looking forward to next year and try to be a repeat in this upcoming league. And when you win the first championship, it's always exciting, especially when we had no expectations to be there.
When did you get a sense, Henry, that the team was probably good enough to win this? Because I mean, at some point through the regular season, you probably got a sense of that you've got a pretty good team here.
I think when we beat to go 4-2 when we beat LA, I think that gave us I think we all thought that we could beat, knowing the matchups 1 4 and 2 and 3. We knew we would be playing. We knew we'd be playing Arkansas in the semis, and I think we thought that we could beat them.
Yeah.
We weren't sure about the finals because we automatically in our heads assumed that, Miami, the favorite, being the 1 seed, we would be meeting them, which would have been a great matchup for the brothers. My Ronnie owns Miami, my brother, who I love dearly, and we would have had a lot of fun that way. But so in our heads, we were thinking Miami, Vegas in the finals once, and thinking also that we could beat Arkansas with the confidence after the LA win. But unfortunately, we won and Miami lost.
Yeah, I mean that's sports. I mean, I know you felt terrible for Ronnie, but everybody did. You know why? Because we all know how much effort Ronnie put into this team, and you no matter how much effort you put in, you can't win the league without winning the match. And we lost on the Saturday to Cancun. So did you watch that match? Because I was on the bench and I saw you across. I mean, I could tell even from you were disappointed that Miami lost.
You know what? I was upset. I wanted Miami to win badly. Ronnie had told me that his team was ready, and you guys, the whole Miami squad of great players, and we actually thought that Miami was going to win, and we were the second match, so we knew who would be in the finals in the first match, and we figured, okay, let's win this match and have some fun on Sunday against Miami. I felt terrible for Ronnie, he has a lot of passion into the sport.
Yeah.
He's actually done a lot for the league, more than probably any other team. Mind you, probably Vegas is right up there, but not to the level of Ronnie, of what his team's contribution to the league is. But I felt terrible. I almost didn't know what to say to him on Saturday night.
Well, it was that's a good way of putting it. I mean, I too, when that final point was won by Vegas or by Cancun, I was like, oh, I looked right at him and I just saw this level of disappointment. But you know what? He plays sports. He plays tennis. He wins. He loses. He gets it from that standpoint. But let's get back to your team. So to me, the match of the entire tournament was actually Vegas, Miami, the weekend before, a couple weekends before. That match went to a mixed. And not only did it go to a mixed, it went to a super breaker in the third set. What did you think about that match?
I thought it was the best match of the tournament. I thought that, first of all, it had the most viewership out of all the matches played in the league.
Yeah.
And I thought it was actually the most competitive match, knowing that, we were definitely an underdog in that match. So when we went 3 sets and down to a tiebreaker, mixed tiebreaker, it was really anybody's game. We had an opportunity to win it, and we made actually we missed a couple of easy shots on some overheads that usually we wouldn't have missed, but nothing to complain about. The team played great. It was basically right down to the wire.
Well, what it did for sure, right, is that game, that match probably made that every Vegas player probably at that point thought that they could win the whole thing, because if
It
they're,
was a huge confidence booster for the team.
yeah,
I mean, as a matter of fact, when we lost that match, the next match we had to win,
that was,
which
yeah,
which was on the Sunday, and if we didn't win, we probably wouldn't have been in the playoffs. And I think that was a huge confidence booster that we can win the next match against, I think it was San Diego.
well, that was, yeah, I mean, you had what a doozy of a weekend that was, right? To have to play two of your tough, because San Diego didn't make the playoffs, but you and I have talked personally, beyond the Toronto Polar Bears, every team was the same, really.
Every team was the same. I mean, you have 3-4 teams at 4-2, one team that didn't do well, and Miami at 5-0, 6-0, or 5-1 because the last match you guys lost. So I mean, basically, there were 3/4 of the league were 4-2.
Yeah.
So it was exciting.
Yeah.
It was very, very, very equal play on all teams. Really, any point one way or another can change the match.
Henry, that last game of the regular season that you had to win to it, like that's essentially like a playoff game. So how much of an advantage is it for the Vegas Smash that they're sort of in playoff mode before the true playoffs? It's unlike, for example, the Miami Pro Padel Club here, where they didn't have to win that final and they could take their foot off the gas and then start the playoffs in the real weekend.
Well, it was it was a playoff match. So we had to, we knew we was go home or die or go home.
Right.
So we made sure that our team was prepared. They had an early dinner that night. They went to bed early. Our team manager, dealing with the players day to day, Alejandro, did a really good job in keeping them focused. And so they knew we had to win, or we go home, and they go home on Monday as well. Back home to their countries.
Right.
So it was, it's a playoff match, and we won that match, and I think that was a huge, huge confidence booster, because I don't know if you saw, but when we beat when we won that match, the team went crazy. They danced around when they beat LA. It was
right.
They were very emotional. One of our top players, Guga, was actually crying after the match. He was very emotional.
Yeah, let's talk about him, because I watched every match pretty much from the beginning right through to the end, not just the Miami team's matches, but I watched a lot of the other teams. Now, Guga was in my mind the MVP for the men from start to finish. It certainly, if you include playoff performance, which I know the players didn't get to vote on when they were announcing everything. I'm sure you feel the same way. I mean, you got to watch them tight. There was a few men that really impressed throughout the entire season, but I think no more than Guga, especially. And I know you were referencing earlier a couple of overheads missed in the Miami game, but prior to him missing a few of those shots, he probably put away 150 of them. So he was the reason why they were in a position to win. And then he maybe ran out of gas in that particular match. But he's been the MVP all season. Don't you agree?
I totally agree. I actually thought that he would be the MVP of the men's for the league, and he wasn't, but that's okay. I mean, the other player was also very good. But he was dominant. I mean, at the end, when they played all those mixed matches, when the ladies and men's played the mixed matches, he was dominant with Palila, with Palila, the girl that was
who won the MVP for the women. She won
MVP for the women. So we thought, Google would win the MVP for the men, and there'd be, there were really some good ladies players. Miami obviously had a top player. Cancun had two really good players, and not Cancun, sorry. I think it was San Diego had two good players.
Yeah. Who didn't even make the playoffs. Yeah.
They didn't make the playoffs. But anyways, yeah. So he was great. I mean, and when I met him for the first time last weekend, barely speaks English.
Yeah.
What a genuine guy. So sweet. He was always coaching the female players after every game on their breaks when they played first. He was really, really, really involved with everybody in the team. And of course, he's a tall guy, very lengthy arms. So he's got phenomenal range and phenomenal shots.
Yeah. I'll tell you a funny story, Mike. You'll appreciate this too. after Miami beat Vegas in the preliminary rounds, we were all eating after, and we were chatting. So I'm talking to him for about 6 minutes. Like 6 minutes can be a long time chatting with somebody, right?
Yeah.
End of the conversation, and I walk away, and I give him a, like one of those bro hugs.
Yeah.
I walk away, and I forget who on Vegas walks up to me. Is it the guy from Vegas? Henry, what's the guy's name from Vegas that you drafted?
Alfred.
He goes to me. He's like, he didn't understand a word you just said. It was a 6-minute conversation, clearly with just me
Oh,
talking. But
that's
still,
fantastic.
that's memorable
Yes.
though for him, I'm sure.
So
Um,
Alfred's a local. He actually lives in Las Vegas. He's a local guy in Las Vegas. Really sweetheart and actually very good player as well.
yeah,
And he was I guess he's been involved with Google from day one.
yeah,
So it's not surprising
yeah,
that
yeah.
he said that.
That's so funny.
Yeah,
Mike, what do you got? What
yeah,
do you got, Mike?
Davis, before we get back to Henry,
Yeah, yeah,
the champion,
yeah.
I predicted a Miami Vegas final. This is my prediction. It's
A lot
also,
of people did. A lot of people did.
and I was rooting for it because I was intrigued by brothers owning these teams, and I've never seen that in professional sport. Where
First time.
yeah. So Ronnie and Henry face to face. I was very excited to see that. So my question for you, Davis Jamieson, as GM of the Miami Padel Club, what happened in the semis? Why did you not advance to the final? Please tell me what happened.
Yeah. Okay, so like it's actually really simple. We as a team hadn't lost a women's match the entire time. So for 6 weeks, including the week we lost, because we lost in the mix to Arkansas in the final week of the preliminary, we had not lost a women's match. So not one time did our men walk on the court with any form of pressure that they had to win a match. So I'm not saying that's why we lost. However, we're playing against the Cancun team. All the men, we thought throughout the entire season, Henry, you would agree, I thought all the men were strong. There was no
I agree.
cakewalks. There was no, other than maybe the polar bears, there were no matches that you're like, okay, we're winning that match. So it was the first time, and our women didn't perform. They didn't. They would be the first to admit that Paloma probably had her worst game. Paloma is an American who, and this is the best way of explaining it. When she plays against other American girls, she has to hit 3 or 4 strong volleys before they miss or give her an easy floater. The Cancun girls, they ain't giving you that. You have to hit 7 to 8 to 9 to 10 volleys perfectly before they give you a puffer. So she was being worked way harder than she's ever worked in her entire life. And Marta Morera couldn't cover both ends of the court. So she needed Paloma to stay consistent, and the Cancun girls worked Paloma. That's one factor. The men went to 3 sets and lost in the tiebreaker. So if they win that tiebreaker, we go to a mixed match with Ruben Rivera and Marta Marrero. And maybe we're talking about a Vegas Miami final. Henry, would you agree?
Totally agree.
So it's an easy answer, Mike, that our women lost for the first time. I think that spirit and the vibe was sucked out of everybody. No matter how hard you tried to pump everybody up, the men did their best, and you lose. So like I kind of felt the domino effect as those matches were going along. Ruben, I thought, was outstanding. I thought Jose was outstanding. The Cancun guys were just a little bit better. I hope that's the answer you're looking for. I wish I had a better answer for you.
No, that's actually
I wish you were in the finals.
Yeah.
Yeah. We all
from a TV perspective, I mean, a Miami Vegas final was a dream final. And you look at every sports organization in the world, at somewhere in the middle of the season, you would pick your 2 teams that you would think would be the most fun to watch. The Strasser part of it is amazing. What you could do with TV for that, and the rivalry with you guys on the tennis court and then on the paddle court, your 2 teams. But it was also the 2, I thought, and I'm biased, I thought they were the 2 strongest teams leading into the playoffs. And I think most managers and owners would agree with that statement. Would you agree, Henry?
Totally agree. I mean, I think that Miami was the number 1 team. not just because of their record, but I think the other 3, 4 teams that were 4-2 were all very close. But I think Vegas was a little hungrier, so I think that put us a little ahead of them.
And we're back to, and one of the questions I want to get into, Mike, and I'm sure you have a bunch as well, is what I found really intriguing about the league was the desperation that the teams had to play with and who they played in their matches. And I'll give you an example. After week number 2, teams like the LA Beat couldn't play any third or fourth stringers. If you look at Vegas and Miami, you didn't have the luxury of playing Alfred from Vegas. Why? Because you needed to ensure that you won or put your best players in there. Do you think that the league will pivot at all and make it so maybe there's a men's A match and a men's B match? Or do you think it's going to be this similar format? And what would you prefer? Because a lot of teams didn't get to play anyone else other than 4 people because it was so competitive. You know what I mean? Does the season need to be longer, or how do you think we can involve more players within the paddle team?
Well, I think a few things. First of all, I think as long as you maintain the same salary cap, I mean, you can't have an unlimited salary cap. Otherwise, everybody's going to get all these international players, and it's going to be a free for all of matches and unlimited amount of dollars spent. So you need to keep the same salary cap. If you keep it the same as the inaugural year, that's a league decision. So that's number one. Keep the same cap. I think number 2 is I don't really think it. Like, I know right now you're allowed to have, I think, 1 or 2 international players, and the rest have to be in North American. I think it's probably the right thing to do because it's a North American league. You don't need to have all the players from Argentina and Spain playing in this league. I think it's okay to have an international player, but you need some Americans to publicize the sport a bit. Again, I know that it hasn't been confirmed what's going to happen next year, and the draft and all those details have not been determined yet. But for me, I think if you keep the same cap, you keep 1 or 2 international players. I think the quality was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to get more Americans that would join the league now because they didn't know what to expect the first year.
They didn't trust it. They didn't trust it would run.
They didn't trust it, and maybe they thought the quality would be bad. And now that they've seen the quality and they've seen what's been presented by the great exhibition of all these games, I think that you get a lot more Americans now applying to join teams.
Yeah. Well, and I think Alejandro maybe had this happen too. Even during the process, even like leading into the last week before the season began, a lot of players came out of the woodworks, and all of a sudden we're calling and we're like, oh, I didn't think it would run. Can I get in now? But the rosters were set. So I agree with you in that I think that between now and next season, once we know what's happening, is there a draft? How's the draft? How many teams? What's the draft order? You will see that there's a lot of Americans, because you and I have had a couple conversations. There are some Americans that were playing this year that were really good.
Amazing. They're amazing.
So they could be that's the catalyst to and I agree with you again. I think internationals were important to support the American players to get them, because they were even Aguga made everybody around him better. So without Aguga, I don't think that we have Aguga and the Rubens and all these guys that were there. But if you flood it with all internationals, then it's just another international league.
It becomes another international league. It's going to be very hard to brand the local North American players. So if you get some North American players on your team, you can market them, you can brand them on your team, on the website, on the league website. This is the top 5 player in North America. That kind of thing. You can create a lot of hype with the North American players versus just getting all Europeans that is completely dominant in Spain, Mexico, Argentina, those countries.
Yeah, and the level, we saw enough Americans to see that there's the eye test is passing, and that they look good, and some of them looked as good, if not better, than some of the internationals. They just don't have that playing experience. But I'm assuming with year after year of the PPL, they gain that, and a lot of them gained it this year, right? Playing, like we talked about, a Luis Estrada on the LAB. They didn't make the playoffs, but he was an impressive player. Right, he was an impressive player playing alongside an international player.
He's a great player. Great player.
So Henry, when's the parade?
Well, you know what we're trying to do now is, as you know, one of the other owners of Vegas is Gavin Maloof from Las Vegas.
Did you know
Um,
that, Mike?
No.
yeah,
Yeah.
so Gavin is one of the owners of the Las Vegas Smash team that we inherited, and when I put the team together, I wanted to have him on board. Um, so the timing of us winning the PPL championship on the Sunday, he is a minority owner of the Las Vegas Knights. His team won the Stanley Cup on Tuesday.
What a weekend for him.
So, you know, he won 2 championships in 48 hours. So
Wow.
what we've actually done now, like literally right now, as of yesterday at 5 o'clock, we've sent the PPL championship trophy to Las Vegas, and we're gonna put it beside the Stanley Cup, and there's gonna
Oh,
be some kind of we're gonna do some kind of event to present both trophies to two champions.
wow. That's amazing. I
That's
mean,
incredible.
and you know what? And Mike, you would agree, like that's when we're talking earlier about contributions to the league. These are the type of contributions to the league that we're talking about that Vegas is putting forth by having someone like Gavin involved and being able to do this. Like this is publicity and marketing that you can't really buy. And he's
And
just an owner.
the timing's amazing. So you
Yeah.
know he's going to have the Stanley Cup with him, and now we've sent him the PPL trophy, and we're gonna they're going to create a little buzz right now. There
Wow.
already is buzz because people have already approached Gavin, different TV networks, 8 channel Las Vegas, and some Las Vegas Tribute review newspaper. They've already contacted Gavin to do some kind of story, how you win 2 championships in 48 hours, and we'll have both cups there present to kind of show them off, I guess.
Amazing. That I mean, that's incredible. That's to me, that is everything that the league currently needs.
Well,
Like
can
that
I
actually cannot be better.
ask about, we talked about marketing the PPL and we talked about television. And of course, even though this championship match that Vegas Smash won happened on Sunday and we're talking about it, it has already happened. But like we should talk about what's happening on the CBS Sports Network on June 22nd. Like to me, this is such a big deal.
Yeah, so I mean we watched a lot of it on YouTube. I think that the broadcaster is the same for the CBS Sports for that broadcast. I don't know what to expect, right, Henry? Because we were there while it's all happening. So we see it all live, and don't know how they're going to put it all together. I
Well,
hope they do.
I hope it's going to come out nice. I mean, they had a good setup there. The arrangement of the whole center court and the setup around the center court with the seating and the umbrellas and the private couches and stuff. I think it was a very good setup. So I'm hoping, CBS is a top notch network. I think they'll do a good job in presenting the PPL championship game, on June 22nd. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, we're there, right? So I think it'll be exciting for all the Las Vegas Smash owners, players, team, general manager, all to watch it
To relive it,
via CBS.
to relive that experience is going to be actually pretty amazing because I think in the moment it can feel almost overwhelming, but then to sit back and to watch it is going to be. So Mike, so Henry has a team slogan that the PPL has adopted. After he won, I guess it was after he won the semifinal, he started it, but he certainly did it again in the final. And it's a big scream of Yabba dabba do. And so we won't really put that out there for our listeners until the end, and we can end our show with it instead of a typical Vamos. But Henry, I want to get your opinion a little bit um on any changes that you can see, whether it be from a roster standpoint. I mean, we don't know how things are going to look for next year. Is there an expansion draft? Do New York and Houston and any other team coming in, do they get a chunk of each team? Like we don't know how any of that's going to work. What's your view on overall rosters? Because I talked to a lot of managers, and I think there's a lot of uncertainty on, who's coming back, who they will bring back, and everything surrounding the roster. I mean, as the PPL winning team, you're going to want to have a few of these players back, right?
Yeah, so I mean, we're concerned too because of course we don't even know when the schedule is. We don't know where the games are being played. And as you know, Davis, this was a short season, 5 weeks in Tampa Bay, and we got to make sure the players are available. So some of our players have other commitments as well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm not, depending on when the season starts next year, I'm not even sure we can get a Guga back or a Palila or a Tia Norton who's the #1 ranked player in Britain. I'm not sure we can get them back, even if I want them back, because I don't know when the schedule is and the timing of the schedule. I haven't heard anything of next year. And of course, it's unclear about the cap. It's unclear about the draft. It's unclear where it's going to be. So there's a lot of unknowns that all the teams have been mumbling about. As a matter of fact, we have spoken to a couple of teams the last couple of days, and they were asking us if they thought maybe we had an idea or we had a lead, and we told them the same thing. We don't know really anything what's happening next year yet. Yeah. And I guess it's early because the season just ended. So, the league did a great job the first inaugural season, get it all off. And,
absolutely.
I give Keith and Marcos huge credit for everything they've done. And they're the two co-founders of the league. And I think they did a really good job to where we are. And so I know, think of a schedule next year, but unfortunately with that said, I also don't know where my players are going to be.
Yeah, and in next stages, the next steps are going to have to happen pretty quickly, so that, like you said, now the World Padel Tour and the Premier Paddle Tour have combined as one. The Premier Paddle Tour has bought, and they're merging, and that is going to create a schedule change for sure. This year was strategic, actually. I thought that the PPL did a good job of picking a time where you didn't have a ton of tournament play in Europe. If you went a month earlier, let's say we did our league in April, we wouldn't have had a Ruben and, all these people, and maybe not even a Guga, just depending on schedule. So you're right. I think you have to look at their schedules so that but to your point earlier, maybe you do and maybe you don't. Maybe a top 60 player coming over is more than enough to merge in with an American player, and that becomes your team. It is what it's going to be. So in other words, once we have a schedule, we'll know what players are willing to sort of come over. But we can't really shape our rosters until that, other than the American players, which I know a lot of managers are probably iffy on whether they want to keep them because it was the first season.
Agree. Totally agree. And I think, and to your point, Davis, at the end of the day, scheduling is a big deal because, it's not just the scheduling of here. You had one schedule of 5 weeks in one city, but next year you might have 3-4 cities host a bunch of games for the weekend.
Yeah.
So now if you're going over a 3-4 month period, who even knows if these players can stay on the roster for that long?
Yeah. You guys had I'm not sure if it was the entire time, but one thing I really admired about the Vegas team is you guys pretty much stuck at SVB and trained.
Yeah. So what we did is we kept everybody in SVB. Initially, there was a couple requests to go home once for family matters or a doctor's appointment, and that ended up getting canceled by the actual player, not by the team owners or management. They said they don't need to go back home. They kind of already got comfortable with SVB. They were happy. They were all connecting as players, communicating and eating dinners and lunches together, practicing together. So I actually think they didn't want to leave and break the routine up. So they actually all stayed in one place for 5 weeks. And
what an advantage! What a competitive advantage that is too.
And we also had a few practices before. So I think a lot of teams came down Thursday, Friday, just before the inaugural season starts on a Saturday. We came on the Sunday before. So a lot of our players are already there 3-4 days. Not that 3-4 days is going to change the season, but the 3-4 days of just knowing each other, just playing
chemistry.
together.
Chemistry.
And create a little more chemistry for a little longer.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, Mike, we went to a Ronnie hosted at the very beginning a nice little dinner for all of us, Henry, that you came to, and you walked in to that nice dinner with a flag with a big banner on there written across "Fuck Vegas." Well, I think that at this point now it's clear that banner probably should have said "Fuck Miami," because Miami's not the winner and Vegas is.
So let me update you on that, because that was a fun joke that Ronnie did. Actually, the whole Vegas team loved it. We went to his house for the inaugural dinner and all the owners meeting each other. So what we did was on Wednesday of this week, we took the same sign, covered up Vegas with Miami, and we put it in Ronnie's office, and against his
Oh my
cabinets.
God, that's so good. I'm
So,
glad you
so
waited a couple of days though, so he could get
yeah,
over
we
it.
didn't want to do it the Monday. We thought it'd be Monday we were
Too
still
soon.
traveling home, and we didn't even do it on Tuesday. We wait till Wednesday, and he's
Smart.
got some side office cabinets, and we put right on the office cabinets the banner, and
Oh,
it had fuck you Miami.
you gotta
And
take a picture of that. You gotta send me that. That's
yeah, I'll
hilarious.
send it to you. It was great. It was all in good taste, of course,
Yeah, yeah.
and it was great. Actually, I have to give credit to Layla. It was her idea to change to about the sign and to change it to change the wording, obviously. So
It
it's
was
in
a great
Ronnie's office.
experience.
It's in Ronnie's office as a reminder.
Yeah. Hey, but it was like, don't you think, Henry, it was a great experience for all of us, huh? To be a part of be part of the season, don't you think?
I think it was great. This was the first weekend I went down, which was last weekend, championship weekend for the semis and finals. When you watch Padel live and the quality of play is really, really, really good. Unbelievable shots, phenomenal athletes.
Yeah.
You could see the pouring sweat, everywhere in their bodies. It's a really fun sport to watch.
Did you get a chance to play?
I didn't play.
Oh, you got to try. Next time we'll have to me, you, Ronnie, and somebody else. We got to play. We got to do some doubles.
Absolutely. You know what it is? Basically, it's tennis on steroids. How's
Yeah,
that?
yeah. Absolutely. With less
It's
ground to cover.
with
So
less ground to cover, and it was exciting. It was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
well, brother, you are one of my favorite people on the planet. That's for sure. I'm really
Thank you so much.
really happy you came on the podcast and supporting. And I had a lot of fun with your team, and I supported them. They supported me, and it was a really good feeling overall. We have to end this podcast properly, and that's with you giving one of your token messages to the world. So I'll count you down from 3, 2, 1. We'll end this podcast and log off the moment you do your thing. Okay. So I'm gonna
All
count
right.
you
So
down. Ready?
let me
3. Yeah.
let me first thank you and Mike for having me on this podcast. It was a great experience. It was a great championship weekend last weekend. Davis, I think the world of you. Mike, you're a top-notch professional. Nothing more to say about you two together. I love watching your podcasts. And
You're the best.
go ahead.
You're the best. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Yabba dabba doo!